Hi everyone. My guest today is retired four-star General Paul Funk II. Over 42 years in the Army, he led troops in Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, and against ISIS as the commander of Operation Inherent Resolve. He later ran TRADOC, shaping how the entire U.S. Army trains and develops leaders. So from tanks to top command, he's seen it all, and through it all, he's been known as a soldier's general. General Funk, welcome to the show. It's my honor to have you.
Danny, thanks very much. And that last part you said means the most to me.
Well, I hope it will be a great episode with a lot of insights and lessons. But I want to start with the beginnings. I was learning about your career, your biography, and I know that your father was a general and your father in law was a general as well. And interestingly, three of you guys were together in Iraq during Desert Storm. And um, I'm very curious to learn how was it for you to grow up in this environment in surrounded by soldiers, by the military. How did it shape you?
Well, frankly, my whole being about a soldier is I saw my dad flying a Cobra helicopter uh, as he was getting ready to go off to Vietnam. I didn't know he was going to Vietnam. Didn't have any. I was 7 or 8 years old, and but I thought, wow, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then I grew up playing team sports. And I was on a variety of sports teams that were very successful. But what I started to notice about the Army as my dad started to command units, I saw that, man, that's one of the best teams I've ever seen. And then I got to spend time with them. So what I decided pretty early on, I think 7 or 8 years old, is I was going to be a soldier. I didn't realize I was going to do it for 42 years. But I got into junior OTC in 1976. Did 4 years there at Fort Knox High School. So I was born into this. I was born into the Army, and so being part of the greatest team ever assembled has always been my goal in life, and I was proud to do it.
So would you do this again if you could go back in time when you were a kid or a teenager?
Absolutely. I would do it time and time again. I think, frankly, service to the nation is one of the greatest gifts we can give the nation. Right? It's our time, our commitment, your family's sacrifice, and our absolute commitment to the goals and ideals of this great country of ours. That's why I did it. That's why I loved it. Um, but what was really the most I tried to keep in the forefront of my mind all the time is that we were privileged to lead America's most precious treasure, its sons and daughters. And frankly, taking that, making that part of our everyday fabric, to remember that was what drove me. I never had a. I always believe that the leaders in an organization aren't authorized to have a bad day. You're going to have some days you hate, some terrible days that you never want to relive again. But you can't have a bad day because, frankly, the moms and dads of America aren't. uh, they don't want us to have a bad day because we are taking care of their sons and daughters. So that's why I think leaders can't have a bad day.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful thing to hear. I was reading about your biography, and what stood out for me was your phrase that you often use: "I am an American soldier."
Yep. Yep.
Even though you've reached the four-star general rank, you're still associating yourself with a soldier. So, what is it behind this introduction, and what are you saying when you're expressing?
What I'm saying is, I'm part of the organization. I'm not any better or any worse than anybody else. I am, frankly, one of them. My job, fight and win America's wars. That's what I was. That's what I was charged to do, and I wanted people to identify the fact that I am incredibly proud to serve the nation as a soldier. I also used to say I'm a phantom warrior, and it became part of whatever unit I was in. I truly believe whatever unit you're in, that's the best unit that's ever been. If it isn't, you got to make it that way. So I believe that. I had the 40 fundamentals, my Funk's fundamentals. Well, that's one of them, right? Make the organization that you're with, love the one you're with. And so I always tried to do that. I wanted people to identify with that. I say it started way back when I was an outlaw in 232 armor in Kirchkoin's Germany, and then carried all the way through to being Victory 6, being the TRADOC commander. I loved being an American soldier. I loved wearing the jersey of the greatest team ever assembled. That uniform that we wear represents that around the world, and I loved it.
Well, on this note, how was it to transition to the civilian life after you? Uh,
Hey, listen, for all the vets out there, Danny, that are listening, transition's not for the weak at heart, right? It's not easy. We have a certain way of doing things, certain battle rhythms and things like that that aren't necessarily out there in the civilian world. But we can't change our identity. Well, we are, we're trained a certain way. That training kicks in when you're tired, cold, lonely, scared, whatever. That training kicks in. It also helps us on the business side because we understand uh, campaign planning. We understand strategic plans. We understand what a training schedule is, which is nothing more than priorities of work tied to a timeline, right? It's nothing more than a PERT diagram for you engineers out there. It is, in fact, we understand these things. We're very good at following directions, reading manuals, using proper safety techniques, mitigating risk. We we don't have to be um, afraid of fitting in. America's looking for us, and they're looking for us to succeed. They want their soldiers to succeed in the civilian life too. So it's finding the right fit, taking time to identify what it is your true goals and rewards are, understanding where you will and won't go, keeping your left and right limits. But it is about finding your tribe again, right? So my great friend, the guy I'm doing transition with, is Mike Garrett, the former Forces Command commander, my great friend. Having him, he and I talk 2 or 3 times a week, and it's usually about transition, something that we're seeing and how things are going, old aches and pains and griping back and forth, and but you have to find your tribe. Get back to your tribe. ERGs are a good way to do that. Employee resource groups, um, uh, other opportunities, but we look for a certain type of folks, right? And if you're struggling, reach out to your tribe because they'll help you. So that's what I'll tell you. It is not easy. Don't let it. It's not easy as a sergeant. It's not easy as a 4-star general. We all have to understand that. We have to prepare ourselves for it. We have to know that we bring skills to the table that others don't. And then we got to use those to our advantage. But we can't be afraid to also learn, grow, and adapt, right? We have to be able to do that too.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned one of your Funk's fundamentals, which is, from what I understand, 40 different nuggets of wisdom that you share with other people. Well, first of all, I'm curious to learn about the story behind that.
So I had all these phrases I used to use all the time. And one of my aides, a guy had great, now he's a lieutenant colonel named Nick Bono, is still on active duty. Nick just started writing them down because I would say them, and we just he collected them, and then so it kind of grew, and then I used them to kind of make a point, right? To kind of humanize something. Every one of them has happened to me in a combat situation or on a field exercise or in a some classroom somewhere or something like that. You know, the higher up you go, the more your ass shows, right? The higher up the flagpole you go, the more your ass shows. So we all have a tendency to understand those kinds of things, and we got to understand that, right? That's about humility. Don't forget that it's the people that got you to the top are still down there with you, right? So that you got to remember.
Do you have one or two of your favorite fundamentals?
Yeah, uh, and I actually have two, and it's really the first one is leave your jersey in a better place. That's actually number 40. And that came from a book called Legacy. It's a paraphrase out of a book called Legacy, which is about the All Blacks, but it's really the best leadership book I've ever read because it gives you practical applications and it shows uh, world champion organization. It was about the New England. It's written by a guy named James Kerr, and it's about a guy named Graham Henry who becomes the manager or coach of the All Blacks, which was the greatest rugby team in the world at that time, world champions. But they were rotting from the inside, so they fired the coach, got rid of the captain, all this stuff, and started over. But when Graham Henry came in, and this James Kerr captures Graham Henry's philosophy on leadership and life, and it's got some amazing lessons in it, right? Don't be afraid to sweep the sheds. That's about don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and get after it, right? Don't get in there. But the best one is leave your jersey in a better place. And it goes something like this. You don't own that jersey. You're just the body in the jersey at the time. So you need to leave that jersey in a better place. We in uniform need to remember that. The Army is going to celebrate its 250th anniversary, birthday, right, this year. Well, guess what? The people serving in it now, they got there on the shoulders of the people before them. So we all need to remember that, right? We need to build on that legacy and not tear it down and cut it up. We need to learn, grow, and adapt from there. But that jersey, that uniform means something in the world. Two things: hope and fear. And it's hope for the downtrodden, those that actually need a helping hand, whether it be in a natural disaster or all out large scale ground combat. They understand that when we hit the field, the outcome is a given. And then it's actually fear because our adversaries know the same thing. Our adversaries know when we take the field, we come we come to play to win. And then, you know, fear is also a great motivator to make sure that people are, in fact, deterred from messing with us. Right? That's part of this. And so, yeah, I believe that to my core. And then I think the number 39 is something that goes like that. Leadership's a contact sport. You got to be in the game every day. You don't get to take a day off. You don't get to take a side. That that's nonsense. You're leading your organization through your personal example, through your words, actions, or through some sort of communication, nonverbal, whatever it is. You are leading your organization all the time. So we need to understand that it's a contact sport, right? It is actually meant to be personal. It's meant to be motivating. It's also meant to be actionable. It's also meant to have corrective measures if those are necessary, right? We got to understand that, right? Not all the time do we, but we do. And everybody's got a boss, right? So if you do the boss's work first, guess what happens? Great things seem to be able to happen. If you do the boss's work first, gives you a lot more time to do your own rather than fighting through it all the time. So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
You also mentioned adaptability, and I know that you took over the command of Army training in 2019 and then COVID hit. So I imagine you had to adapt a lot.
Oh, Danny, you can't even imagine what we had to do. And frankly, because of the lessons we were learning down at Fort Jackson, for example, where the great Biggs Beagle, who now commands Combined Arms Center at Fort Leavenworth, uh, and and is just a tremendous leader. What he started learning in COVID was how to treat the cohorts so we could continue training. We didn't have the ability to stop. Right? People were leaving the army still. People were still We had to fill the units, so we had to figure out a way to react to this, but continue the mission. And so he and his great team at Fort Jackson, the great team Curtis Buzzard and his team at Fort Benning, all over the place. Ken Camper at Sill, and the guys at Fort Leonard Wood too, all remembered um, that we got to keep training. So we just had to figure that out. And then we had people from Major League Baseball, the SEC commissioner, people came to see what we were doing because we were able to continue the mission. That was my greatest example of the adaptability. So this condition hit us, but we couldn't allow it to stop us. We had to figure it out. So what did? You set the conditions, right? You get the resources, set the conditions, and then work your way through the friction. And that's what we were able to do. We only paused for like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, get the right things in place. The Army provided us a bunch of resources, and then we continued the mission. That's what we had to do.
Thank you for sharing. And I am as a baseball fan. I remember the COVID days, and I think
Yeah,
MLB was one of the first leagues to reintroduce games.
they were. And guess who won then? The Los Angeles
The
Dodgers, my great
Dodgers.
team. Dave Roberts, the manager, is a friend of mine, as a matter of fact. And he and I have talked about that. So, and they are the current world champions as well. Which, if you get that on the podcast, it'd be great.
Well, definitely. Well, congrats. I'm a Rangers fan. We
Ah,
just won in 23 for the first time.
well, yeah, you got all the players from the Dodgers, though.
Yeah, Seager and
Yeah.
oh well, the Dodgers just they just went to the White House as the
Yes.
champions. So
Yep, they did.
all right, perfect. Well, you know, lately I like to ask this question to almost all of my guests, and it's about uncertainty and how you deal with that, especially when it's a high stakes situation, and you've been through that a lot.
Yeah.
What's your approach to dealing with uncertainty?
The U.S. Army, deal with uncertainty through our training. When all the chips are down, what you can rely on the most is how you've been trained. Frankly, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the way to go. And so it becomes your reactive. It becomes your muscle memory, right? It becomes your reaction. I think if you query the Medal of Honor recipients, I think all of them would tell you that. I think it was their training that they fell back on, and when all the chips were down, and that's what brought them through, right? That's what we do. We are incredible at the training business. We just are. And so I would do that in a heartbeat. In times of uncertainty, rely on your training. Understand you've been trained to mitigate risks. Understand that you've been able to look at situations, develop situations, and then when all else fails, send a scout. I'll tell you, our ability to conduct reconnaissance should not be overlooked.
Yeah, you're definitely not the first person to tell me that, and it's very nice to hear. Like, it seems like training in the US Army and in the US military in general is one of the, if not the best in the world. Would
It
you agree
is.
with that?
It's the training's the biggest way to mitigate risk to bring our young men and women home. That is. It's good, hard, tough, demanding, realistic training. Our training centers are the coin of the realm. They are in fact the biggest mitigation we have to mitigate casualties on the battlefield. They are, and our ability to do training needs is absolutely the key to how we make things have success on the battlefield.
Definitely. You you always put people first, and I've learned a lot about you, and I I want to ask you this. Did you have a mentor or a
Yeah,
soldier who had the biggest impact on you?
yeah, absolutely. Not, remember, I was born into this, right? And it just so happens my father and father-in-law were tremendous leaders, both of them, and I grew up around these folks, right? So I had great examples. My football coach in at Fort Knox High School. A guy named who we just lost to cancer, a guy named Gary Thompson, was a tremendous mentor for me because my dad was gone a lot, and so he kept me on the straight and narrow. And he was like a second dad to me. Took me hunting and fishing, the things I like to do, and taught me a great deal, and had time for me when things were tough. And so I've greatly admired that man. Uh, my mentor in the military was Marty Dempsey, who was the 18th chairman. And frankly, I met him when he was Major Dempsey and I was Captain Funk. And that that picture you talked about with the three of us sitting there, my dad, my father-in-law, and I in Desert Storm, Marty Dempsey took that picture. And so he truly still is a mentor to me even now. So just a tremendous leader. I'll tell you that he and another guy, as I got more senior, was Joe Votel, who was the CENTCOM commander when I was the CJTF commander and OIR. Joe Votel was a tremendous mentor for me in terms of strategic, how to deal with the strategic parts of the military and where we were going. Very, very, very competent guy, incredible human.
Yeah, I saw the picture of you too. I think it was on Wikipedia. And I actually talked to him a few weeks ago. He might be joining the podcast. We'll see. He was interested. So that'd be very interesting to learn and to
Yeah,
see his perspective as well.
yeah,
Do you mentor other soldiers yourself?
yeah. Well, yeah, I think I do. Frankly, at one time, last year, Dave Roberts said I was mentoring him, which was really nice of me to, really nice of him to say. Yeah, I have a bunch of young men and women that I mentor along the way, and I'm proud to do it. Right, yeah, because they have to select you. You know, you kind of got to sign up together. And so one of them happens to be Chris Dempsey, who is Marty Dempsey's son. My dad was General Dempsey's mentor. See how that works? So it's really kind of cool. I got a picture of the four of us together. That's kind of when Chris Dempsey gets promoted to colonel. We're all there together. So during COVID, as a matter of fact, at Fort Leavenworth. So neat time of my life. Mentorship means a bunch to me. There's a great book about Fox Conner, who was the mentor to Eisenhower and all the great generals of World War II. He was. That's a great book. It's called Gray Eminence, as a matter of fact. Great book.
Do you think you at least partially find purpose in mentoring other people now that you're transitioning?
Yeah, you have to, right? Purpose is the hardest thing you're gonna miss leaving the military, right? You got to come out and refocus your purpose on different activities, and you got to find your tribe, like I said, and you also got to find your ability, what gets you up and gets you excited again, right? So, heck, I'm an old, the coolest thing I thought we did was the Army Combat Fitness Test. I was 60 years old and loved that thing. You know, man, it was hard, but we're the Army. We do hard things, man. So I used to mentor people through that, right? Come on. If I can do it, I'm 60-year old. Let's go. So, we're supposed to do hard things. So, yeah, you do find purpose through that, right? You absolutely do.
Hmm. All right. As one of the last questions I love to ask is, again, not even a question, but more to give an advice to a young man or a woman in their early 20s, maybe even younger
Mhm.
than that. What would you tell them?
I would tell them, I would say, first of all, if you're having trouble finding your purpose or your direction in life, join the service. One of them, right? Find your purpose, direction, and motivation. That they will give you those things. And frankly, you're giving back to the country. And we in the collective good need to take care of one another. There are people out there that don't like Americans all that much. And frankly, service to the nation in some form or fashion uh, contributes to all of us, all of our well being. So that's what I would tell them.
Well, Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing all of these lessons. Thank you for helping Dave Roberts win the World Series and and also win the war in the Middle East.
Danny, another great friend of mine is Dan Quinn, who's the head coach of the Washington Commanders. Another great leader, just another tremendous guy, and who has the ability to adapt culture, bring in great high end athletes, mold them into a tremendous team, and drive them to success. Just a great servant leader in his own right.
Yeah, it's very interesting how the skills from the military can not only be applied to business but also to sports.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, great episode today. Thank you, sir, again for joining. Thank you for your service, definitely, and yeah, glad to have you on.
Hey, Danny, I really appreciate you having me. And I'm going to steal a catchphrase from my great friend um, Dave Bellavia, who's a Medal of Honor recipient. When people say to him, "Thank you for your service," he replies, "You're worth it." Frankly, the American people are worth it, right? So I was honored to serve, and so was my family. So thanks for having me on today.
Thank you, sir.